I realized, like, what do I love most? Like, what brings me most joy? And I kind of reflected back on my whole career and was like, I love building people. I love building good teams. I love working, having a seat at the table with business owners and really helping them strategize and visualize what their future looks like.
Welcome to this episode of Mission Control. This is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands. And we have a special guest in studio. Took us a while to get her here, but she's here, the one and only Christine Daniels. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you are a transformational executive coach and leadership development consultant. A lot of syllables.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are the founder of Christine Daniels, LLC.
Correct. Yes, I am.
Excellent. So we can't wait to get into all of the, the ins and outs of leadership and professional development. And thank you for all the work you're doing to help people elevate themselves and, more importantly, elevate others.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. And, of course, we've got the right-hand man, Jorge Pezo Candelario.
The Coquito Papito.
Oh, no. All right. And we have Kevin on the soundboard.
Hello. That's all I got after that.
There's no way to follow Jorge week after week. There's just no way. So Kevin's like, I'm not even going to try. He's just waving the white flag of intros. So let's talk about leadership because it's part of scaling a business, growing and hiring, and there's so many little cliches, right? You want to lead in a way that people want to follow, and not lead by fear, and also growing teams. I mean, we just recently have a new addition to our squad. We welcome Matt Lee this week. And maybe let's talk a little bit about what were some of you guys, he kind of got through your level first and then he got to me, but he came through. What are some of the things we look for in teams? And maybe Christine can chime in and what are some of the things that folks should be looking out for?
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it from your perspective. And we noticed that not just skill set is important, but team chemistry is really important. And a lot of that comes down to personality. Some of it comes down to work ethic. Some of it comes down to just what your overall hobbies are and what the culture that you bring, and if that's going to be a good fit. We've had folks come through who have been talented, who have had the ability to do the work, but have not always been a great fit for the team as a whole. And we find that impacts overall productivity, not only of that person, but of the team at large. So energy, we find, is so super important. And even from the first interview, we could tell that this man had a different energy than a lot of the folks that we had been interviewing previously, not only in skill set and know-how, but also in just team chemistry. And it seems like it's an intangible. I don't know if you can quantify it, but maybe you can, and that's what I want to learn more about too.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of companies hire for skill set, and like what you said, team chemistry is everything. It's like, what about those soft skills, the emotional intelligence? How are they going to mesh with the team? You guys have a very collaborative environment, right? It is a squad here. And one person who doesn't really fit into that can really disrupt everything that you do. And I think from a leadership standpoint, I think more hiring practices should focus around soft skill development, attitude, and because the skills can be taught, right?
100%.
And so I think I think you're right on par with that. And I love that you guys really look at that when you're looking to hire and bring someone onto your team. It's important.
Kev, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, same as what Jorge said. And then he was just one of the most recent interviews where he just felt like he said all the right things. Not just because I know the right things to say, but just from some of the projects he's done, how he was able to talk about them. Like, it was obvious because we get a lot of people now. I feel like, I get all the ads online like, hey, 6-month boot camp, 9-month boot camp, and now you're a React developer or you're this developer. they don't really have any experience outside of the course,
Right.
where you can tell that he's worked on actual projects. He's actually gone through troubleshooting and like knowing how to fix problems and kind of figuring out things, not just, I don't know, I followed this course, I went through it, I did it, Googled some things.
Yeah, I appreciated his honesty in that he said, look, I'm switching careers. You know, I spent many years in manufacturing. So in my mind, these are transferable skills. I know manufacturing is going to be assembly line, teamwork, team leads. Like I know he's bringing all that. Kind of like Shanice was at Panera before she decided to get into web development. But she was also hustling baked goods at 3 a.m. to different locations where if their ovens went down. And so I was like, transferable skills. Like I know I can count on her. Like that was something that people needed to have their baked goods.
The ability to be clutch.
Right,
We talk about that when it comes to business development. We talk about it when we talk about our sports heroes. The ability to come through in the clutch and say, I trust you. We talk about moving at the speed of trust.
Yeah, great book.
You can only move as fast as you trust the people around you to be able to deliver. So hearing that, oh, hey, this oven went down at 3 a.m. We need to make sure that we have those. We need to have all the bread for the morning for open, and it still got done. 68 miles away or whatever it was. Like that's clutch.
Yeah.
And not everybody
has
has
pivot
that.
and adapt,
Right.
And not just like everything's never going to go just according to plan, but how resourceful, how resilient, how can you pivot and adapt to the circumstances that are in front of you?
Yeah, and he said something that stood out to me was like, I just want an opportunity to prove myself. Like he knows he's got to come in and that takes a level of humility, maturity. Those are all chemistry. You mentioned energy is important to me. I used to be, when my kids were little, I used to be into fish tanks. And I remember like when you would bring a fish home, you have to like keep it in the bag that it came in and like let the bag sit into the fish tank. Not that you guys are fish, by the way, but you don't just throw the fish into from one temperature into another, from one pH into another, and then the other fish don't get a chance to like acclimate to that new fish. And it's important because part of our process is the candidate interviews with the team that they're going to work with first. At least in this case, it worked out where it's like once he kind of passed your guys' level, it was like, all right, I'll meet him and see. And I'm trusting you guys that you guys are looking for the right skill sets, and because ultimately he's part of your team. I'm not a detail person, and we can talk about Myers-Briggs and DISC because you're DISC certified, right?
I love DISC.
So I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm fine. That's such a fascinating element to creating a team.
It is.
And it's made a big difference in how we operate.
And it's something that we've invested in heavily with every team member, and it's so important to also not just know what you are and what somebody else is, but be willing to be adaptive to them. Like I know Jorge needs more detail than I'm used to giving, so I'm gonna make sure I give him that. And then also when I'm listening to Jorge, I'm like, I know Jorge's gonna give me more detail that I need, but I'm gonna hang in there and not cut him off. I'm gonna, give
him his time to
give
talk.
Him his time because that's how he
that's
operates.
how he processes and how he communicates.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I like to use the marble metaphor too when I give my workshops, because a part of branding and it's the hopes that with effective branding and marketing, you're going to grow your business, right? That's what we try to do here at PD. And I always use that image of the Marvel universe and say, look, take note when you see there's a lot we can unpack there, but just look at the best teams. They don't all have the same. They're not like a clone of one type of hero. There's like complementary skill sets.
You don't have 5 Tony Starks or 5 Hulks, like, you know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to get the same things
and
done.
The more diverse I think your team is with life experiences, I think the better ideas are going to come out of it.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of power in those assessments, whether it be DISC, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, CliftonStrengths. I mean,
do you remember what letters you were on
course.
Myers-Briggs?
Oh gosh.
ENFJ or ENTJ?
I was ENTJ.
ENTJ.
And I'm a high IS in DISC, so the advisor. High I love people. Don't ask me about the detail. I like steady, collaborative, team environments. That's where I, thrive.
Okay.
But don't ask me about all the details because, like I need someone else. Like I write everything down and I have the big picture, but like asking me about those little details, I'll get like, that's boring to me.
All right. Well, we are going to ask you all about that right after these words. Ever tried Paint and Sip? Well, this is Paint and Kicks. Kicksmith Studio was founded by a group of sneaker enthusiasts with the goal of sharing their love of sneakers in a new and creative way. They believe that sneakers are more than just footwear. They are a form of art that reflects self-expression and culture. Their goal is to provide a fun, inclusive, and innovative space where anyone can explore their artistic side and create something truly unique. Kicksmith Studio is one of Peralta Design's most recent brand launches, and they are a great place for team and corporate events, birthday parties, or date nights. For more information, visit kicksmithstudio.com.
Mission Control.
And we're back. Please help me welcome once again the one and only Christine Daniels.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you and share this time.
Yeah, and I was trying to find your website, so I went to Christine Daniels, and it is available, but you're ChristineADaniels.com. So those folks out there that are listening and want to check her out, you are a transformational executive coach and leadership development consultant. But you've been, from Wall Street, I like to say from Wall Street to John Maxwell. Like we want to hear, how did this happen?
Yeah, there's a lot of life in there. So I was born just outside of Chicago and right outside the city. My parents were divorced when I was young, so it was a very tumultuous kind of upbringing. And, I've basically been working since I was 14. I was a rebellious teen, got myself into a little bit of trouble, barely graduated high school, and got a job at a bank. And I was a teller. And then I moved up to assistant branch manager, and I was going to school at night. And by the time I was 22, I was pretty bored. I was like, I got to be looking at something else. And my stepfather, it was right when CNBC was becoming really big, and he was like, hey, I want to teach you something. I want to teach you how to read the stock market. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And next thing you knew, I was dating someone long distance from New York. That's how I landed out here in 94. I got a job as an unregistered sales assistant. At the time, I think it was Shearson Lehman Brothers. It was, led by Jamie Dimon and Sandy Weil. And I started out and I got all my brokerage licenses. And it was also the time where a lot of hedge funds were popping up.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street. Absolutely. One of my favorite movies. It's a funny story about this. I mistakenly showed that movie to my kids at a very young age. So
listen.
that wasn't really smart.
We have a tradition on Christmas that the whole family goes to watch a movie and we take turns to who picks. And RJ, my son, was into finance, so he picks Wolf of Wall Street. You want to talk about mortified? Like my mom and dad, they're like staring at the screen like, what are we doing here?
Oh, that's
so
funny.
You lived it though. I
lived it, yes. There were so many books out around that time, the Boom Boom Room, all that stuff. So anyway, I did start out and I worked many years in Greenwich, and it was right around the time where a lot of hedge funds were popping up in Greenwich. And, at this time we were kind of was it Morgan Stanley City? There's so many different mergers. And there was like a little niche that was, a need that was unmet. And a lot of these hedge funds that were popping up wanted institutional caliber coverage, and they didn't really qualify for it. So I was able to kind of build this little niche out of Greenwich. And I had 2 people on my team, and we built it to 5. And from 94 through 2008, we built it to a pretty substantial business, about $3.5 billion under management. We did a lot of trading, a lot of foreign exchange, a lot of futures. On any given day, I'd be trading $1 billion of notional. So it was really exciting, and got to study the markets, which I loved. And in 2008, one of my number one account recruited me out. He was a European family office, and I went to go work for him. And I was his investment banker, his trader, his foreign exchange. I kind of handled everything for his business. We did a tremendous amount of trading. And in 2015, he also had a portfolio of private equity. And I had no experience in private equity, but I was asked to be on a number of boards. I'm like, sure, I'll be on a board member. And looking through his portfolio, there were a lot of companies that he had a controlling stake. And one of them was in the U.S., and he asked me to join the company and kind of start at the ground up. So I kind of got to see what it was like to be sitting side by side with the CEO and building it from 3 people to like 3,000. We ended up taking it public, and just really being involved in all the different facets of the business. And then we also started a private equity fund, been now part of 2 or 3 of those, and did fundraising, all that kind of stuff. And it was really exciting. I was kind of feeling like I was always flying by the seat of my pants, kind of learning as I go. Yeah. And then I had left the family office, left the company that I was working with, and went to another company, kind of turned things around for them. I also started another private equity fund, which I was the CEO of. And came up with the name, assembled a team, everything else. And this was in 2020, 2021. And then I got fired. Not
laid off.
Not laid off. I got fired.
So totally blindsided.
Yes. Oh, blindsided. It was a different strategy. They were going a different direction. They didn't like that. I was, I am definitely a cross the T, dot the I kind of person. And the field was cannabis, so you have to be very careful in cannabis, and that's where I'd spent 6 years and kind of I was considered like a pioneer because I'd been with Curaleaf and Acreage and Viridescent and Measure 8 and all these other companies. And so it was devastating because with that career, work had defined me. Success was all about what I made, what my title was, everything else. And so to have all that come crashing down and really like, holy cow, it was all more like what happened to me. And fortunately, I had a coach and I had people that I've been working with, and I had some time to reflect because it kind of took me a while to get over it. And I realized, like, what do I love most? Like, what brings me most joy? And I kind of reflected back on my whole career and was like, I love building people. I love building good teams. I love working, having a seat at the table with business owners and really helping them strategize and visualize what their future looks like. And so I had immediately started a consulting business. It's called Occipitor Advisory. It's still out there, but I kind of basically folded everything under Christine Daniels. But I went back to school and I got a bunch of coaching accreditations. I went to IPEC so I'm a CPC, Certified Professional Coach. I loved assessments because I think there's so much power in learning about ourselves. Like, we can't lead others until we really know how to lead ourselves. And some of us, we all have blind spots. And like, I just love to be able to focus on the positive aspects, like focus on what you're good at, your strengths, but you got to know those strengths. How do you apply them? How do you invest in them? And then from there, then in 2020, 2022, I found John Maxwell, and I had read a number of his books. I just love his timeless leadership principles, and I love how he's able to break down the complex into very simple. And so I joined his team, and I went through all their different programs and became a member of their executive program. And I just, between that and also Brendan Bouchard, I'm all about high performance, kind of elevating people to that next level. So I have a tremendous amount of coaching certifications, and I use them for myself and use them for my clients. And so then I got married. I did divorce during that last hiatus. It was my last career in 2011, kind of took everything away from myself and my family and what was important, put it all into the career. And right before COVID started, I met who's now my husband, Jim, and we got married in 2023. And so then when I kind of moved away from Exhibitor and put everything under my personal brand. And so from there, now I just do a lot of work with individuals, groups. I know it says executive coaching, but you're always coaching the person. So I do a lot of personal one-on-one coaching, really do a lot of work on the mindset. I think mindset is really, our thought life is most important, and it's really what kind of gets us in our way a lot of the time. So I kind of work to kind of reframe a lot of that, and really just help people get from where they are to where they want to be faster. And with organizations, I have access to so many programs, plus things that I've kind of curated myself. A lot of times companies have difficulty hiring people and retaining that right talent. We talked a little bit about the importance of the composition of the team. So I kind of work with those individuals and those leaders to kind of make sure that they have those right hiring practices, like know what you're looking for, and also helping with the strategy and vision, like what do you want to be known for? And then team development, conflict resolution, communication, all that kind of stuff.
So these chapters sound, wildly different from one career to the next. Do you find that this chapter do you feel like it's more personally rewarding for you versus the previous? Is it hard to compare them because it's such a big shift? Or do you find commonalities between the two?
That's a great question. yes, I've been blessed to have the career that I had before what I'm doing, but I've never felt more passion and purpose than what I'm doing now. I really, truly believe that. Those aha moments, or you see the success in other people and what they're able to achieve and kind of realize their dreams, there's no money that you can put on that. Right. Doesn't matter what kind of title or what I did before.
Definitely one of those moments where the worst thing that happened to you turns out to be the best, because at the moment, I know what you mean when you're like, who am I? You know, like that. I call it identity paralysis.
Yeah.
Because everything's stripped away, and now you've lost the title, you've lost the job. You find yourself like, okay, who am I?
Yeah, well, there's
what do I do?
Yeah, there's a journey with that, right? Because at the time, it's so easy. I mean, I felt victim, right? It was this happened
Who
to
did
me.
This to me? Who had it out for me?
This happened to me.
Yeah.
And when you really take a step back and you reflect, like, no, this happened for me. And so, like, what am I going to do with that? Like, it's kind of like that with that mindset. Like, I could sit there and be bitter and angry, and now I have nothing but gratitude, because had that not happened, I wouldn't be doing what fulfills me the most now.
Right. But you said something that you had a coach.
Oh, I still have coaches.
But back then, what if you hadn't had one, or did you have one through the company, like, or did you just always have, like, because we can't do it alone, but I don't think a lot of people realize the value of having a coach.
Since I've been in a C-suite position over the last 6-7 years, I've always had mentors or coaches. And now, I mean, I have a speaking coach, a business coach, a mentor coach, accountability coach. I mean, we're not meant to do all this alone. And what I've found and what I really experienced was those at the top, it can be a lonely job, right? Especially when you're leading an organization. And they need that outlet. You know, they need someone to kind of be on the other side, support, growth, help them get to that next level. Sometimes just a vent. So I do really, really believe in the power of coaching. And I've been a huge advocate of having a coach and a mentor, for a long time.
Yeah, and early on we were discussing the time of year and how we're inundated right now with folks looking for jobs, and a lot of companies at this time of year, unfortunately, slash jobs. What advice would you have for someone finding themselves displaced this season?
You know what? Take the time, figure out what brings you joy, what's important to you. What do you want to be known for? What are you for? Spend some time, work on knowing what your strengths are. Take that time to reflect and think about what really brings you the most joy and where you see yourself going from there.
Great advice. Again, it's what happens. It doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. And sometimes these are the worst, And going back to the superheroes, I always like to say that all of them, attain their superpowers through some sort of trauma. Sometimes it's those moments of darkness and loss where you might discover something about yourself that puts you on a new trajectory. And you're throwing yourself into service and helping others. What are some of the companies that you've worked with, or the types of clients that you've worked with in your practice?
I work with a variety of different companies, usually small to medium-sized businesses. I do like to go in for a period of time. It's not because that brings me money. It's like you want to really get into the weeds with them. It's not like a 1 hour session and you're fixed. I can do a 1 hour for a luncheon or a retreat or something like that, but to really see those sustainable results, it takes time. You can't just rewire the brain. You have to be there in practice. They need that accountability. They need that check-in. Growth takes time. It's a daily process. And when you're really, depending on what I'm going in for, usually it's either emerging leaders, someone I think what I've found most with companies is people get promoted because of their results, but now they're asked to lead teams and they've never been trained to lead others. So a lot of the work I do is, how do you become that 360 leader? How do you manage up, across, down, and how do you develop that confidence? How do you give feedback? I think feedback, you think about all the things that go on with culture development and employee engagement, which we all follow these polls, we all look at Gallup, and it's down, and a lot of it's because we're so busy and everything else, but it's also, I think leadership is an incredible privilege, but I think it's also an incredible responsibility. And I am very much of the mindset that leaders are servant leaders, so we're there to empower and lift others. And I think that the leaders themselves need that training to be able to, do that, to be able to be that leader, to be able to empower people, help them get to their next level. I think that's really, really important. So, and other things I work in conflict resolution. There's, you name it. There's, I think usually it's always communication, because I think so many times people listen to respond instead of listening to understand. So we do kind of a lot of that kind of work as well.
And do you have a favorite assessment tool, like Myers-Briggs over DISC, or do you use them all?
I use them all, but for a corporate gig, what I'll first start off is everyone takes DISC. And I love creating a communications directory. I do a lot of workshops on that because I want them to understand that people are different, but they're predictably different. And they all have certain characteristic traits. They have certain preferences, communication styles, how they receive information, how they give information. So I think everything starts with understanding. And I do a lot of training around that. I also really do CliftonStrengths. I'm a CliftonStrengths coach as well. I believe in positive psychology. Let's focus on what we're good at, invest and make that a talent and a success rather than focusing on what we're not good at. And I think the more that you know about that within your team, you can really align projects, put people in the right roles. So those are the two I really start with. On the individual basis, I love the Enneagram. The Enneagram's like the what behind the why, or the why behind the what, excuse me. And that kind of goes really deep. You peel back those layers, you kind of get to, what we're running away from, what we're longing for, our worldview, all that kind of stuff. So that's psychology, all that stuff. There's so many aha moments for people, and then I also have an energy leadership assessment that I do, and it's kind of like how are you showing up? Like, are you showing up with, victim mentality? Are you angry? Are you more opportunistic? Are you joyful? And just to be able to show people that they have the ability to be able to shift their thoughts and how it elevates their energy. And as a leader, it's like, people do what people see. And that's where I kind of go back to the responsibility and the privilege of being a leader. So it's, yeah.
Awesome. Now, I want you to shift gears a little bit and tell us about this amazing event that's coming up, Live to Lead, and just take us through how you got involved with John Maxwell and how I think he's part of this as well.
Yeah.
And you're bringing this to the Valley, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm really excited about that. It's a global event making a local impact. So John Maxwell, this is his 11th year, and it's only for people that are part of his team are able to bring this content. But twice a year, I get to spend a week with him. I usually see him every week on a Zoom call, but he's all about equipping others, right? He's all about personal development, professional development. And so this is its 11th year, and he always brings just brilliant speakers to the stage from diverse backgrounds. Like he's had Ed Milet, he's got Malcolm Gladwell. I mean, this year we've got an incredible lineup, but he just brings in different thought leaders that are just all about personal growth and development and team development, business scaling. And he just provides this to us and says, hey, you know what, bring this to your local community. Bring the value. This is a great platform for you to bring. So this year we're going to be doing it on January 29th. This is our first year. I'm really excited to bring it. I'm partnering with the Greater Valley Chamber. And this year's lineup, we've got John doing 2 segments. We've got him doing one on mindset, which I think is so important, the scarcity versus, the growth mindset, how to develop an abundant mindset. We'll do a teaching after that. I mean, I do a lot of work with mindset, so we'll listen to him on that. We've got Malcolm Gladwell. We're talking a little about the composition of the team. Malcolm will be talking about his new book, The Revenge of the Tipping Point, and we'll spend some time about the importance of the composition of the team. We've also got John Gordon, who is he's Mr. Positivity. He's, coaches a number of sports teams. He's written a tremendous amount of books. So we've got some time with him. Valerie Burton is one of the top 50 life coaches in the world. She's also my mentor coach. She'll be there. And then we've got Brandon Dawson. I mean, everyone's heard about Grant Cardone and how you 10x your business. So we'll have Brandon, who kind of co-founded this program with Grant. So all about scaling businesses. And I think it's just a great lineup because I think we do have a number of large businesses in our area, but we've also got a number of small to medium-sized businesses that are looking to scale. So we look to equip them. This is not just for professionals, it's for personal, for individuals who are looking for personal development. And then we've also got someone sitting right across from me. He's going to be on our leadership panel, which I'm so excited for that. We've got a whole host of local leaders that will also be presenting. So it's just really going to be a full day of development. I love that we're doing it in January, kind of kicking off the year, kind of setting goals, kind of setting up success and what that will look like. And then I'll have, masterminds and stuff to kind of continue on that journey. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited to bring it to the Valley.
Yeah, this is great. It's all about professional development, elevating others. It's a full day.
It's a full day, 9 to 4. We are going to be giving continuing ed credits and SHRM credits, so it's
awesome.
Great to kind of get your year started off and kind of get those credits. And I think it's really just going to be fantastic. I think people are going to be walking away equipped. Kind of expansive mindset, understanding the energy gaps and time management. And I've got all these tools and kind of like actionables for people to kind of take away with. So I don't want people just to come and I want them to hear it, but I want them to be equipped to be able to go take it out and actually do something with what they're learning.
Now, so obviously all of us have kind of seen the benefit. We see the value. Do you have a challenge in... What would you say to someone who might not see the value, who still needs to kind of be sold on what difference this can make? What would you say to somebody like that so that they could attend and benefit from that kind of event?
Well, I mean, you think about it, even from an individual standpoint, I mean, someone who wants to establish and build goals and achieve those goals, kind of what the mindset is to kind of prepare yourself because, and also just the consistency in putting things into action. From a leadership perspective, you're going to hear timeless principles from John Maxwell himself. And what is it to be a leader? I mean, he always talks about, we kind of alluded a bit to it. I didn't have time to bring it up before, but the 5 levels of leadership, right? So there's 5 levels as you're developing. One is, it's your position. Next is permission, right? Position, just because you have the title and people have to, think of you as a leader. The next one is permission. They are following you because they trust you. And the next is the production of like what you've done for the organization. The next is people development. Well, what have you done for them? How are you growing them? So everything is kind of, and then the fifth is the pinnacle about like the legacy. It's like who you are, what you represent, and what you stand for. And so much of that, I mean, leadership is an ongoing journey. Just personal development is an ongoing journey. Leadership isn't done in a day, it's done daily. And so I think when I think about Live to Lead, that is a platform of just continuing to build yourself in your own personal and professional development.
And the best leaders create more leaders.
That's correct.
Right? You're not creating followers, you're developing leaders. I love it. Now, maybe share a bit about 2 things. Share how people can learn about you and find out more about you and hire you and things like that. So please share all your handles and your socials and your URLs. But also, I believe registration's open.
Registration is open for Live to Lead. You can find it right on my website. It's ChristineADaniels.com. There is a separate Live to Lead page. We have some sponsorship opportunities still available. You can get me in for a full day as a sponsor. You can have me in for half a day. We can do DISC. We can do, a discovery session. I could do a workshop, whatever you might need. And you can also purchase tickets there as well. And we at the event itself, we'll be, have resources available for sale. Malcolm's new book. We'll probably have some of your books there. But yes, and then you can also find out about the other programs and being able to contact me, connect at ChristineADaniels.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. I do have my social channels and as well under Christine Daniels.
Awesome. Well, Christine, great message, great story. I love your energy and I love everything you're doing to elevate others.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.